Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League YouTube channel. Now it is the turn of the F4 League to take centre stage for round 4 around the Shanghai International Circuit. My name is Jake, and as always I'll be guiding you through all the action. I hope you are all having a fantastic evening, and I'm sure we're in for another superb race in the inaugural Invictus F4 tier tonight. The last race at Circuit Zandvoort this time last week saw Malk take the win over Maggot following a late safety car that cost Maggot, as unfortunately his McLaren team did put him on the wrong tyres. He should have gone for softs, but his team put him on mediums for the short sprint to the flag, and unfortunately that did cost him, as up till then he'd looked pretty well set for a very comfortable win. So he in the end unfortunately lost that lead, took second place in the end, as Cryptox took his first podium in third with a very impressive drive up from 8th on the grid. And Nitrogash also took 4th despite what was a very highly eventful race for him, a number of incidents which he would not have hoped for, but still managed to salvage some good points in the end, as both Red Bulls are targeting the championship. And speaking of the championship, that race did see Malk take the lead in the championship for the first time this season, as he moved on to 26 points. The championship, as you would expect at this early stage, is incredibly close, especially considering that we have had 3 different winners in the first 3 races. So we've got Maggot in second on 24, Nitrogash in third on 23, and Synchronously, who unfortunately cannot race tonight due to internet issues, a further point behind on 22. Meanwhile, in the constructors, it's very clear that a three-way battle at the top is emerging. The current leaders are the Red Bull duo of Nitrogash and Malk. However, they are closely followed by the McLaren pair of Maggot and Milham, and also the Alfa Romeo pair of Cryptox and Synchronously. But of course, Cryptox will have to do all the work tonight, as he is the only Alfa Romeo here. Of course, in the build-up to the race, we had the pre-race press conference questions put to Malk and Cryptox on this occasion. And we've actually got a very wet qualifying, so that definitely changes things. And it might be a blessing for some of the drivers, because the soft tyres don't last very well around here. And there would have been, of course, that conundrum as to what tyres you qualified on, because you wouldn't particularly want to start on soft tyres in an ideal scenario. But if a race is indeed dry, the drivers won't have this issue anyway now. So, remains to be seen on that one. But yeah, Cryptox was backing the Red Bulls to start here. He actually predicted Nitrogash to beat Malk to the win tonight. So Red Bull 1-2. While Malk himself actually thought that Maggot is the one to beat. Both drivers backed Synchronously to get back to the podium after a disappointing Zandvoort race for him. But of course, that unfortunately isn't possible tonight due to those connection issues we mentioned earlier. They both reflected on what happened last week. Malk kind of reiterated what he said to me after the race last week, and that he thought he was very fortunate to beat Maggot. Obviously the tyres at the end were ultimately crucial to Malk grabbing that win. And Cryptox himself was also thanking a little bit of luck, as he said that the timing of a safety car was absolutely crucial to his race, and without that he would have been in trouble, because he did have to serve a stop-go penalty, which he actually managed to serve under the safety car, which ultimately kept him in contention and allowed him to grab that 3rd place. So now we've obviously rounded up what happened last week. Now let's turn our attention to what's going to happen tonight. In terms of our location for tonight, we are at the Shanghai International Circuit, one of the many circuits designed by Hermann Tilke. It first hosted an F1 race in 2004, and it contains 16 corners with 9 to the right and 7 to the left. The traditional 2 DRS zones, one down the massive kilometre back straight, and then the other down the much shorter pit straight, which of course leads you into that what seems like never-ending turn 1. Much different track to the Zandvoort track we raced at last week. Oh, as Tinus loses it on his outlap, and that just shows how tricky these conditions are on the full wet tyres. So, this driver's already struggling a bit here. And we will, I'm sure we'll see plenty of offs during the course of this qualifying session. course, this, like I said, this is a much different track to the one we had last week. A lot wider. There's a lot more overtaking opportunities around here, and a certain familiarity to it as well. As of course, Zandvoort brand new onto this game, whereas we've had China for, well, as long as we can remember now. So this is a track the drivers will know very, very well. However, it will not make these conditions any easier, and Tinnis, unfortunately, has already messed up his lap by going too wide at the last corner. So that's not worked out at all well for him, so we'll now go on board with Tim Man, who's making his way up to the end of Sector 1 now. He's done a 28.7 first sector. It's very difficult to gauge how quick that is, of course. You could sort of have a gauge as to what dry pace should be, but in the wet, it's very much unpredictable, and we're not sure, of course, how the conditions are going to develop over the course of the session, so that's always interesting to see. Of course, if it gets drier, these opening lap times won't mean too much, but if the conditions stay fairly constant, then it's just going to be a case of pounding round and trying to find the best possible lap time you can. As I said, I hope you're all doing well tonight. This is definitely maybe not the conditions some of the drivers would have hoped for. Very, very challenging conditions around this track. Of course, not too challenging in this part of the track. You've just got to keep your foot down and spot the braking point for the hairpin that's coming up. Of course, this will be a key overtaking spot in the race, no matter what the conditions are. Of course, with such a long run from turn 13 and then all the way down to turn 14, slipstreaming will be incredibly important down there. As Tim Man rounds the final corner, you've got to be careful to stay within track limits, which he has done, and he sets the opening benchmark, which is a 1:48.6. And we'll just see at the moment who else have we got, who's closing in on the end of their lap, I wonder. See if we can find someone to view. We've got Mike here, who's actually coming up to the end of his lap, so we'll see how he gets on, of course. Mike, with 1:48.6 to beat, goes just second on a 1:48.7, so at least the first few lap times at least incredibly close. Crittot's, of course, a podium sitter from last week. He would have been very happy with that performance, taking that first podium. All the pressure on him tonight at Alfa Romeo. They'll be wanting to keep up their hunt in the Constructors' Championship, but just got one horse flying for them tonight, and that is Crittot's, as Malk goes on to pole by just 35 thousandths of a second. So even in these conditions, the lap times are incredibly close. And in terms of so far this season, although Crittot's got his first podium last week, he has scored points at all the three races so far, so he's a consistent point scorer, and you wouldn't expect that to change. And already, again, we see how close it is, because Mike and Richard have done exactly the same lap times. Oh, and that's a spin out the final corner on traction, and Crittot's lap is ruined as a McLaren about to cross the line. That's Maggott as he goes into 5th place. Let's see if we've got Patsman on a lap in the Haas. Indeed we have, so we'll watch Patsman round at the moment. Haas have had an unspectacular start. They looked incredibly competitive at the opening round in France. In fact, at one stage it looked like both of them could easily be on the podium, until unfortunately a collision between the pair of them ultimately cost them getting the points they would have ideally wanted. But since then, it's been a real baptism of fire for Haas. They've only scored 1 point in the next 2 races, which actually came from this man we're watching here. So they need to find some form again. They showed that they got the speed in France, but since then it just hasn't worked out for them for one reason or another, and maybe this kind of qualifying session could play into their hands. Got Patsman around the final corner to complete his opening benchmark of a session, but it's not particularly going to be that high up. It's good enough for only 9 at the moment. So we've got Malk currently on pole, with Tim Man second, and Mike and Richard with exactly the same time on the second row, with the 2 McLarens following behind. Let's go on board with C. Wilson as he completes his opening lap time of the session. It's just a 154, so it's not really done too much for him at the moment. Oh, and we've got a Mercedes off the road here. That's Brennan's. So that's not the way he would have wanted his qualifying to go. He's going to have to recover to the pits now. Is anyone going to be doing another lap, I wonder? I mean, you don't have to... well, it doesn't look like any drivers are pushing for a second lap, but... that's a little bit surprising because, like I say, you can do more than one lap on the wet tyres in qualifying, but it looks like most drivers now are just trying to get it back to the pits. Despite the top four being quite close, it's pretty spread out after that. Of course, many drivers, of course, might not have a wet setup, and with the race potentially being dry, they might be running a dry setup. So depending on how biased your setup is towards dry conditions may affect your pace in qualifying, as both McLarens are back in the pits now. Let's look at Spud, who is yet to do a lap, but he's out on the track on an out lap. Spud has had, there is no way of putting it really, a difficult start to the season. In fact, he's already had an off on his out lap, which is not the ideal start for him. But yeah, Spud hasn't had the session he would have hoped for. Unfortunately, he was disqualified in the opening round at France. He did score a couple of points at Austria, but didn't actually finish the race last week. So it's been a challenging start, and ultimately he's admitted he's been struggling to find pace on this game. Obviously, he's been a consistent title challenger in seasons gone by, but just doesn't seem to have found a rhythm yet on this game. And ultimately, that has impacted his ability to fight at the sharp end where you would expect Spud to be, as he has another off moment. I'm surprised he hasn't lost a front wing end plate yet. He's already struggling. He's not even on his lap yet, so this is not what Spud would have hoped for. Just trying to get used to these conditions. I'm just going to have a look as to what... yeah, so everyone's staying out on the wet tyres, so no one even thinking about intermediates, and I don't think that's particularly surprising at the moment. Well, let's see how Spud copes on his flying lap. Like I say, a very popular member of the F4 paddock, and we just hope that he can start to find his rhythm on this game. And maybe a session like this could potentially be the opening he needs to get himself a little bit higher up the grid. Let's see, of course. So it's interesting, actually, looking at it. Oh, Milham's actually... he's not come out on Inters, but he's thinking about switching over to them. Yeah, a few drivers have actually gone back out on the tyres that they did their opening run on, which is quite interesting. I wonder if that means they're expecting more rain, or if we want to save the tyres for a final run, or what. But there's a few drivers that are going out on previous used wet tyres. Malk is one of them. Nitrogash is another. So both Red Bulls have done so. C. Wilson has as well. Whereas other drivers are coming out on brand new wet tyres. Spud, unfortunately, has already invalidated his lap, so we will now focus our attention to Tin Man, who his first lap was good enough to put him into second place. If he can find just a little bit more pace, he'll put himself onto pole position, but I don't think this lap's going to be the one that does it for him. No, he might have made a mistake somewhere, because he's not finding a lot of pace. Oh, Stephen starts his lap, so we'll follow him round. Currently in 8th place, but almost 1.7 seconds off the pole position time due to the current spread of lap times we've got. In terms of our Stevens season so far, it's actually been pretty solid. It didn't start in ideal circumstances with a non-score at France, but since then, the last two races, they've picked up 2 5th places in a row, and you know, has looked to be quite a dangerous person to watch out for in the races, in terms of, you know, doesn't always look the quickest in qualifying, but come the races, they always just seem to find something extra. And although you wouldn't say right now they're in championship contention, with just how close it is, it all it takes is one good result and he'll be right in the thick of it. So very much an underdog, I think, but could make an impression. He's currently 3/10 up on his previous lap time, so there is some grip out there. Mileham's still not daring to emerge on the intermediate tyres yet. It doesn't really look like it's drying out, if I'm being honest. There's potentially a line appearing, but it's going to be a gamble if anyone, I think, does go on inters before the end of the session. Fix his braking point for the hairpin, very difficult to do in these conditions. Oh, a bit of oversteer on exit as he tries to light up the rear out of turn 15. Now into the kink at turn 16. Careful not to run too wide. It's definitely going to be an improvement, and it's good enough for 5th place on the grid as it stands. Just 2/10 off the quickest lap time. Found a lot of time in that final sector there, so a good lap from Osteven. What's Maggot up to? Not improving at the moment, so we'll see if there's any other drivers who are out there who could potentially improve. Tinnis, I think, is one driver to watch out for. He's just entering the far sector of his lap now. A driver who always looks like he's got a lot of pace is Cryptox. The podium sitter from last week goes on to provisional pole position by half a second, a 1:48.1. So Cryptox has found some pace from somewhere. He's got a whole half second clear at the head of the field. But synchronously is watching. He'll be delighted to see his teammate do that as Maggot does in fact improve and pops up into P2. So I wonder, are the conditions just starting to improve here? And of course, if Tinnis doesn't pit here, he won't be able to run inters. So no, he's going to complete this lap, Tinnis, and it's good enough for 8th place and a 48.9. Brennan's is on a much improved lap as well, so let's follow the Mercedes driver around. Brennan's, in fact, this is only the second race that Brennan's has actually started, and when they did start a race, they did come home in 6th place, so Brennan's is one to keep an eye on. That 13th place at the moment is certainly not representative of what they're capable of, and they are on a much quicker lap at the moment. Brennan's around the final corner, and it's good enough for 5th place on a 48.7. Narrowly ahead of his teammate. Alright, so there's 2.5 minutes left. There's 2 drivers out in the pits. Mileham's still got the inters on, but I don't think it's going to be ready for them. And in fact, is he going to come out at all? There's a few different options at play here. Sab has decided enough is enough, so he must have crashed out on the circuit. I think he has. Oh no, he's still moving, so yeah, no, I think he's just retired out on track, which I'm not entirely sure he's supposed to do. But Ginger Tiger goes around the final corner, and his lap time is only good enough for 12th place. Cryptox's session is over. He will not be improving. Mileham, Osteven and Spud are not coming out again, so Spud will not be doing a lap time in qualifying. In terms of who we've got on laps at the moment, I wonder if is Maggot on another lap. Nope, Maggot's session, his session is over, so he won't be improving either. So Paul's there as Richard goes up into 3rd place on a 48.4. So a good effort there from Richard to pop it onto the 2nd row. Who have we got who is likely to potentially gate crash near the front of the field? We've got Nitrogash just starting his lap now, currently only in 11th place. He'll be wanting a lot more than that, and he's already over half a second quicker in the first sector alone, so this is a very, very promising lap. Osteven has gone out, but he's not going to have time to do a lap, so fortunately that's kind of a little bit pointless, unfortunately for him. Nitrogash a little bit off the preferred line there. That won't help him too much, but he's just trying to take things very smoothly here. Wants to get on the power without too much drama. And yeah, he's massively quicker at the moment. His previous best. This should put Nitrogash right up there, somewhere in the 48s. Has he got a teammate? Has he got a teammate just behind him as well? I believe he has. Let's just have a quick look. Oh, we've got a new pole position time. Tin Man has gone the first man into the 147s, and Tin Man, as it stands, is on course for pole position. Can anyone stop him? Nitrogash is on a good lap. Malk is on a lap. I believe we've also got Mike, who's on a lap too. Haven't even got what it takes to knock Tin Man off pole position. Nitrogash across the line. It's only enough for fourth. And Malk has gone on to pole position. 147.1. Great lap from Malk, and that's going to take some beating. Mike is also improving though, so we'll stay with Mike as he's just entering the final sector now. Tinus does another lap on those wet tyres and pops it up into third. One of his best qualifying results of the season, probably his best since the opening round at France. As it stands, a 48.0 from him. What's Mike got in the locker, I wonder? It's suggesting Steven did get to start his lap on time, so looks like he will be doing a lap after all. Mike around the final corner. This is looking good. It's good enough for Mike to go into third, a 47.8. Is Steven actually on a lap? No, he's not. I think. Is that everybody? We've got Patsman. No, Patsman's on a lap. Patsman is good enough for 8th on a 48.3. Have we got Tin Man on a lap? No, he's backed off. So, I believe that is it for qualifying. Malk takes a dominant pole position in the end, a 6/10 of a second margin to Tin Man, who has his best qualifying in F4, popping it onto the front row. Of course, he got a podium at the opening round of the season, but since then has struggled to pick up points. Mike in third. We've got Tinus in fourth. Cryptox, who did his lap quite early on actually, drops to fifth in the end, with Brennon's in sixth. Maggot is seventh. Patsman eighth. C. Wilson ninth. I imagine the most disappointed person in qualifying will most likely be Nitrogash, who could only manage 10th. Richard is in 11th. O'Steven 12th. Mileham did one lap and didn't come out again. He's 13th. Ginger Tiger 14th, and then we've got Sab and Spud, who both retired quite early on and didn't really do what you'd call representative lap times. Fair play to Malky. Thought he got a bit fortunate last time out as Zambot, but there was nothing fortunate about that. That was an excellent qualifying lap. He looked like he had good pace throughout qualifying, and that's definitely set out a marker when you're in a tiered league. To get pole by such a margin, even in wet conditions, is a massive confidence boost going into the race. I think for a team that only focuses on, or let's put it this way, focuses quite a lot on the constructors, though, he will be disappointed to see Nitrogash only in 10th place. But we all know Nitrogash, he's more than capable of working his way through the field. And good to see Tin Man and Mike there, two drivers who looked incredibly competitive and threatening at the first race of the season, but since then have struggled. Could we see a return to form for those two tonight? Tinus as well, he's looked quick at times, but just hasn't got the rubber to green so far this season. He got a point at Zandvoort, but ultimately I think that was just down to the number of retirements, because Tinus himself had quite a scruffy race. The two McLarens and Maggot and Mileham might be second in the constructors, but they've got a lot of work to do in the race as well. So a lot of variables coming into this one, and of course if we've got a dry race, it'll be the first dry running they've done. Nope, we've got more rain for the race, so it looks a bit dry. It looks like we are on intermediates now, I would say, but we have got more rain for the race, so that is ultimately, well, it's going to be another challenge for these drivers, and it makes turn one, which in itself is usually quite a tricky corner, makes turn one even more challenging than normal at the start. Hopefully all the drivers take it easy going into there. But for Malk, I don't think he'll mind these conditions, because he looked very much at home in qualifying. and it's just a case of will it dry up as the race goes on, will the rain get heavier? It's all down to what the rain does as to how this race may potentially go. Safety cars, definitely a possibility here. There is a lot of runoff, but at the same time, you would expect a few offs. And they'll be thankful, I suppose they'll be thankful in one sense, they don't have the soft tyre conundrum at this track, because as we know, the soft tyre is pretty useless as a race tyre around here. And also, quickly credit to all the drivers there, waiting for Stephen to ready up, so that's massive credit there to do that. So we're all ready set to get underway. A quick look ahead as well to next week as the cars line up on the grid. Next week we are racing at Abu Dhabi, so that will be the venue for round 5 of the season at the Yas Marina circuit. And all drivers, as you would expect, on the intermediate tyres. It definitely is a lot lighter than it was in qualifying, but we still have rain falling, and there's still rain on the circuit, and it's going to be a treacherous opening lap for all the drivers here today. See the tyre marks there being left in the track as Malk tries to get some heat into those intermediate tyres. A fantastic tyre, of course. It can handle pretty much anything from almost a dry track to heavy wet conditions. Very versatile tyre to use, and it ultimately gives you a lot of strategy options as well should the conditions change throughout these 28 laps. And it'll be interesting to see how things go. Obviously, we've had 3 different winners in the opening 3 races. We had Milham, of course, win the season opener at France, and then, of course, we saw a Nitrogash take the win at Austria, and then Malk, in his own words, quite fortunately, taking the win at Zandvoort. So, you know, who knows? Will we have a 4th different winner in 4 races, or can Malk string together back-to-back wins to really take a foothold in this championship? Shall wait and see. There's plenty of drivers behind who have yet to pick up wins and who will be itching to get that first win. The league is so tight from the front to the back that many drivers will fancy their chances of getting a win over the course of this season. And these are certainly challenging conditions in which to try and get it. See there, it's quite deceptive, that camera shot. The straight looks a lot shorter from that angle than what it actually is. It stretches a kilometre back. Usually we have to set DRS a decent way down the straight just so it's not too overpowered, because of course if you set it at the start of the straight, I think you'd probably be able to overtake about 2 cars if you're really fortunate. But of course there won't be any DRS active unless we get to dry conditions at some point during this race. As the cars begin to line up on the grid, Malk and Tin Man take their positions on the front row. Then it's Mike and Tinnis behind. We've got 6 different teams in the top 6 on the grid. All of them will be looking for those lights. As the lights begin to illuminate once they go out, let battle commence of a Chinese Grand Prix. Nitrogash has already got a jump start, and that's an excellent start from Malk there. Nitrogash has moved up, but he of course will have to serve a drive-through. It looks to me like the top 2 have got away pretty well. Mike is up into 3rd. Nitrotox has made a positive start past Tinnis, who has dropped back a little bit as we come through the first sequence of corners now. Let's go further down the field then. Malk has got away well, but Tinnis has dropped some positions. He's down to 7th place. He's battling now with a Renault. C. Wilson, in fact, drops to 8th place. The top two have already got away and made an excellent start. And look at this, diving down the inside is Maggot into turn 4. Is he going to be able to make it stick? Oh, it's still alongside each other on exit, but Maggot has got the better traction and moves his way up to 8th place. Not the start Tinnis would have ideally wanted, but unfortunately there was nothing he could do. We're back now with Brennons, who himself has had a pretty decent start behind him. We've got C. Wilson looking to go down the inside of Cryptox. That's going to be a brave move if he can make that one stick. Has he got it done on the exit? Yes, he has. A great start from the Renault driver then. Wilson up into 6th place. Cryptox coming back at him though under heavy braking. That's going to be a tight squeeze if he can make that stick, and he can't. He's going to have to slot him behind for now. But at the front, Malk has absolutely got away with it. Ahead of Tinman, who in turn has pulled comfortably away from Mike. Nitrogash might be up to 4th, but he did jump the start, meaning he has to serve a penalty. That's a bitter blow for one of the championship contenders. That's an error that he will be disappointed at making, and that will drop him right to the back of the field. As we stay now with Cryptox. What's Nitrogash going to do? Is he going to get that? Is he going to get the drive-through penalty out of the way early on? Yes, he is. Nitrogash is into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty, and not the start he would have wanted at all. As we see here, Cryptox looking down the outside into turn 1 on C. Wilson. This would be a brave move if he can pull it off. I think the Renault has actually ghosted a little bit there. I think C. Wilson might have actually disconnected here. That's a real shame if he has. Oh, as Cryptox struggles under traction to get the car going in the right direction again. That's not what he would have wanted at all. But I do wonder, has Wilson disconnected, because his car was ghosting and it didn't look like he had it. It looked like it was under AI control, let's put it that way. So, yeah, that could be a massive blow for him. Further down the field, we've got Patsman, sort of at the back of what is becoming a train of cars, I think, behind Brennons, as the top 3 begin to just scamper well away. Top 3 as you were, of course, no changes in position there. The biggest loser off the start was Tinnis, dropping from 4th all the way down to 9th. Spud has gained 4 places up to 12th. And of course Nitrogash, who jumped the start, has dropped to the back of the field. Presuming it stays under intermediate conditions throughout, of course, a one stopper would be the much preferred strategy, I would suggest, but you can never quite predict what the rain's going to do around here. Tinman's actually just taken a few tenths of a second as Tinnis has to defend from Richard, who dives down the inside of a hairpin and moves Tinnis a little bit wide, which allows him to get a better run out the corner. Richard up to 9th. Tinnis drops back and it's now into the wall. Tinnis into the wall. As he tries to recover, will he have to pit? He didn't hit the wall that hard, so if he's slightly fortunate, he will have got away without damage. I think he has, yeah. So he has got away without damage, but that spin drops him right to the back of the field along with the Red Bull. Tinnis had such a promising qualifying, but it's all just gone a little bit wrong. Let's see, does Cryptox go for a move here on the Renault? He does indeed. I do still think that... Oh no, I think Wilson might be back in the car now. So yeah, Wilson actually defending that very well against Cryptox and keeps hold of that 5th place. In fact, I say 5th. Has somebody dropped down? Oh no, I think that was 5th anyway. No, Brennons is ahead of him, of course. But yeah, in terms of the gaps at up front, Tinman 2.5 seconds behind Malk, who is just driving beautifully at the front. Mike is a further 3.5 seconds behind Tinman, so the top 2 looking like they've comfortably got a pace advantage at the moment. You can't help wondering if some of the drivers, maybe towards the back, have put on a dry setup in the hope that we do get some dry running further on into this race. Right now it doesn't look overly likely. The rain's still falling quite heavily here. As Cryptox moves down the inside, is he going to go for it at the hairpin? And see Wilson, he tries to get it, make sure he gets it stopped. Who's going to have a better traction on exit though? It's a Renault, because Cryptox of course had to take a shallow line into the corner, which ultimately meant his exit was compromised. And the Renault stays in front, but Cryptox knows he needs to get past. He looks like the quicker driver at the moment, but finding your way through in these conditions is not easy because you do have to go off a preferred line. And that just isn't what you want to be doing. And in fact, he's got to be careful behind him because Maggot is looking to get past as well. The top three are absolutely, they're so spaced apart already, it's incredible. Right now Malk has got the race he would definitely want. But there seems to be, it seems to look like at the moment that this Renault just is struggling to keep the cars behind him. Spud picks up a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. I don't think he's gained time doing that because yeah, Spud's dropped down. What's happened to Spud? Let's see if we can find out. He must have made a mistake somewhere. He definitely hasn't gained time through it, so I think that penalty is a little bit harsh. Honestly, in fact, has he picked up? No, he's not picked up damage. No, I think he's genuinely struggling though in these conditions at the moment. Hopefully, things improve for him. Back with the main on-track battle at the moment, which is this battle between Cryptox and C. Wilson. But C. Wilson's actually got an excellent run onto the straight, so I don't think there's going to be any opportunity here for Cryptox to make a move. He sort of ducks out such extreme things about it, but maybe that was more to put off for Renault than actually go for a move. Squirming on the curb there for Renault, and that puts him immediately under pressure. And now he is going to be under threat into turn one. Cryptox looks straight to the inside. This is a great opportunity to make the move into turn one. This is an absolutely crucial moment in the Alfa Romeo's race. The German goes down the inside and makes the move stick. Through the last couple of corners, the Renault had looked like it was struggling ever so much under traction. And Cryptox has made a very important overtake, and he will now look to break away from the cars battling behind. And now we can turn our attention, of course, to Maggot, who will want to try and follow through. Oh! Under braking! Patsman there. Oh, he did a magnificent job there to both avoid contact and avoid spinning into the wall, because it must have just been a bit of difference under braking there, and he almost caught the Haas driver out, but some superb recovery driving has helped him both stay on the road and stay in P8. So, a bit of a dramatic moment, but ultimately any problems were averted there. Malk is absolutely in control of this race. Already built up a 4-second lead and we're only midway through lap 5. His pace is absolutely superb at the moment. And you can already see, just look at the way Cryptox has pulled away from the Renault, just showing, I think, that ultimately the Renault started struggling in race pace. In terms of positions gained at the start very quickly. So, of course, C. Wilson himself gained 3 positions off the start, but he's about to lose one of those positions, I suspect, because Maggot is looking down the inside of a hairpin, but he forces the Renault slightly wide, but he can't get the power down, so surely Maggot will have to give this one up. It's going to be side by side into the final corner. This is not advisable under any circumstances. As Cryptox does the fastest lap of the race, he's absolutely got the hammer down. Maggot is looking down the inside into turn 1 and has made the move stick. Unless Wilson comes back at him though. Yes, because Maggot went a bit too deep into the corner. Maggot's going to try and hold it round for the inside of the next turn, but he can't hold it into turn 3 and he has to slot back in behind again, and that has already allowed Cryptox to gain a 3-second gap over these cars battling, but Cryptox himself is now looking very firmly at the back of Brennan's. He's got some serious pace now. He's got some clear air, the Alfa Romeo. But it has to be said, not as much pace as Malk, who his gap is now up to 5.5 seconds at the front. He is absolutely in control of this race, and I think he'd be quite happy if it just stayed at intermediates throughout, because right now he looks pretty unstoppable. Back to positions gained. Of course, Brennan's gained a few spots himself. Sab and Spud have pretty decent starts as others around them floundered somewhat. A lot of people stayed in the positions they started in. And of course the big losers are Tinnis, Nitragash, and also Ginger Tiger, who has also had to stop, I believe, as well. He must have made a mistake somewhere because he just dropped to the back, so he might have had a spin or an off somewhere, but ultimately that has cost him as he drops back, and we've actually got a yellow flag in sector 3. What's this all about? Sab has lost it! Sab has... Oh, and I thought for a second there Spud was going to go slamming into the back of him. Sab has got the car righted again, but ultimately that has dropped Sab to the back, just on traction, coming onto the kilometre straight out of turn 13, and lost the rear end of the car, and that drops Sab back to the rear of the field. Not what he would have wanted at all, but Maggot is looking down the inside to turn 1. He rehearsed this on the last lap. Can he finally make it stick this time around? Spud is in the pits. Oh, and the two cars going side by side, and Wilson is putting up some heroic defending here to hold on to 6th place. He's clearly got cars behind him that are quicker at this moment in time, but he's not giving up these positions without a fight. And Maggot just cannot seem to get the move done in turn 1 at the moment. He may have to look for somewhere else to catch the Renault off guard slightly. And Spud pits for mediums. Now, who knows? This could turn out to be well, actually, there's a few drivers pitting for dry tyres. I think it is drying up a little bit, but I don't think it's nowhere near ready for slicks unless I'm seeing things wrong. I'm actually interested to go on board here with Spud just to see what it's like on dry tyres, because I can't imagine... Oh, look at squirming on the throttle. Oh, the track's just not ready. I think it definitely has dried up though, somewhat. But look at it, it's a lap or two too early yet to think about slicks, and it really is costing these drivers here who have made an early gamble, but it hasn't worked. Meanwhile, further behind, Maggot at the hairpin this time. Wilson's desperately trying to hang on. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. I assume that's for... Oh, Sab's retired. He's crashed. Sab, I think, has crashed out on the circuit. Is that going to be a safety car, I wonder? No, it doesn't look like it. Or has he crashed? Let's have a look at the... map. Yeah, he has crashed. So that's... And Nitrogash is pitted as well. Nitrogash and Ginger Tiger are also pitting. That's a slightly odd one, that I have to say. Maggot's finally made the move stick though, and is up into 6th place. This time the Renault couldn't do anything to defend that position. So Nitrogash is going into hard tyres as well. Now maybe the track is more ready now, but I still think we are a lap or two away from optimum dry conditions. Maybe Nitrogash feeling like in the position he's in, he's got nothing to lose, but this is not a good race for his championship. We've got a yellow flag in sector 1. What on earth's happened now? Is it Spud further down? Is that a moment? No, he's not even in sector 1, so... Yeah, not too sure what actually happened there. Let's go back with Patsman, who is over the back of the Renault now. Wilson is slowly dropping back despite his great defensive efforts. And the last one with the next car to think about a move is Cryptox. Cryptox along going down the inside of Brennan's into the hairpin, and Cryptox continues his fine charge for the field, finds himself now into P4 and following on from his podium last week. He fancies his chances of a second podium in a row. In fact, Brennan's pits. Oh, and we've got... Right, so DRS is now enabled, so those that came into the pits now, I think have actually called this absolutely brilliantly. Those are Brennan's, Maggot, Wilson, O'Steven, and Mileham all pitting now, and of course Spud went on to mediums, but a lot of the other drivers are going on to hards, and you can only guess that they're going to try and take the hard tyres to the end of a race. But wait a minute, what's happened with Mileham? Oh, Mileham has... Oh, right, so Mileham of course had to queue because Maggot was ahead of him in the pits. Like, Patsman's got a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. What's that all about? Oh, and he's gone off! Patsman's gone off and lost a place to Richard. So he must have slid across the track, I wonder. And there's cars out there that are really struggling now. These conditions are really starting to catch out some of these drivers. And Malk will want to get straight into the pits. I'm sure there'll be communication between him and Nitrogash. The track is now ready for the slick tyre, but you look at like Nitrogash and how much time they've lost, and Nitrogash is back in the pits again. Now where is Malk on the track? Is that could potentially, no, he's got enough margin for that not to be an issue. I was going to say I didn't want him to get held up in the pits there. Nitrogash is back in for another set of hard tyres. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. Has Patsman got another issue, I wonder? Patsman looks like he's really struggling out there. Has he picked up damage? Quite hard to tell from that camera angle, unfortunately. But his car looks okay, actually. I think he just wants to get rid of those intermediate tyres. So let's see, Malk. There we go, so Malk is away and back out. Oh, what has happened? Malk must have lost some serious time in the stops, because all the margin he had over Tin Man has completely gone. Did he have to wait because of a Red Bull crew service in Nitrogash just earlier, I wonder? I'm not too sure, but either way, that's really cost him. That 8-second lead he had has completely eroded, and he's now got Tin Man just 1 second behind him. And this is where we find out who's got the best dry setups on. Meanwhile, we're going to go straight with Critox because he is absolutely right on the back of Mike. We've got a yellow flag in sector 1. That could be Patsman, I wonder. I'm not too sure. But Critox is looking very dangerous at the back of Mike. Brennon's, who of course pitted a lap early. It's not really worked out that well for those that pitted a lap early. Not as well as perhaps I suspected it would. But we've already got Ginger Tiger, Spud and Nitrogash a lap down, so Nitrogash's race really has just gone. However it could have gone wrong, it has gone wrong. Now, this is the interesting thing is strategy-wise, like, not everybody has gone for the hard tyres. We've got Wilson in 6th place, he is on mediums. We've got Mileham and Patsman further down on mediums. I'm not sure those are going to go to the end. Now, of course, the one thing they can hope for, of course, is a safety car at some point, which would help them, obviously, potentially make another stop. But without that, they're going to struggle to get those to the end. Tyre wear around here is quite an issue, quite severe. So although they'll be quicker to start with on these tyres, you know, Brennon's will know if he just continues doing what he's doing, he will get back at the Renault later on, should he overtake. Critox is looking for a move around the outside to turn 1. This will be a superb move if he can make it stick. And, oh, he's going to do it, isn't he? Right around the outside, he should get a better traction. He'll have the inside for turn 3. And there's nothing Mike can do there. And that's an absolutely sublime move from Critox to move him into the podium positions. He's been absolutely on fire this race so far, as Critox. He really has. And even in dry conditions, he just looks to have very strong pace here, and he finds himself in the position he was in last week. And the question is, can he make any impression on Tin Man? Because Tin Man's already dropped to 2nd to Malk, who just seems to have the pace no matter what the conditions are. But can Critox start to close down the racing point? That's what I'm wondering now. Wilson right on the... Oh, and he's tapped the back of the Mercedes! And Brennon's is round! Oh, it was just a slight tap into... at the end of the start of the 3rd sector, but that slight tap was all it took to send the Mercedes round, and Wilson inherits 5th. And Brennon's, unfortunately for him, drops back to 8th. That's a big blow to his strategy as Maggot, with the aid of DRS and Slipstream, moves past the other Mercedes of Richard, so not a good few corners that for Mercedes. Interesting, Malk here. Malk has done the fastest lap of the race, so no one at the moment has the pace to challenge him. Interesting if Cryptox can do anything about that on these next few laps. Spud has become our second retirement, and has he crashed? Because we have a safety car. We have a safety car. Yep, Spud I think has gone off in sector 2. And that brings out the safety car and completely changes this race potentially. Now those that pitted for mediums, what will they do? Because potentially now, with this safety car period, those on mediums might be able to stretch these out to the end. This may benefit them. Or will they just play it safe and pit in again? We shall wait and see. But that eradicates Malk's lead, and I think potentially puts him under threat from the likes of, from particularly Cryptox, I would say, in third, who now will be right in there with a chance. It's a disaster for Spud though. This third non-score in 4 races. Of course, the Williams team is struggling with their other driver Tej, unfortunately absent tonight, and Williams just not having the season they would have hoped for. The 2 lapped cars of Ginger Tiger and Nitrogash pit. Actually, they're not lapped, so that actually benefits them. So Ginger Tiger and Nitrogash here. Oh, this is going to be key though. Malk is obviously... Malk's coming around the last few corners now. It's absolutely pivotal that these 2 cars, for their races, get out in front. Ginger Tiger, I think, is out, and so is Nitrogash, and they are ahead. Yeah, they are ahead. So that is absolutely pivotal for these 2 now. They can run to the end. They can catch up to the back of a snake. And potentially for Nitrogash in particular, he could yet salvage something from what has been a pretty horrendous race so far for him. So they're allowed to overtake the safety car, and Malk of course has to slot in behind it. Could potentially mean an enlarged safety car period, because it will take a while for these cars to catch up to the snake. See Wilson and Mileham both pit for brand new medium tyres. That drops them down. Wilson drops outside the points, and that means our lineup, as it were, after we're on lap 13. So Malk is your race leader at the moment. He's led the race throughout and has looked imperious up to now, but this will definitely be his toughest test yet. We've got Tin Man in second. Again, started second, has driven a sublime race. Cryptox finds himself in third place. Of course, getting 2 positions now for start. We've got Mike, who is down to 4th, but still having an excellent race so far. Maggot up to 5th. Richard up a lot of places to 6th. His teammate Brennon's, after that contact with Renault, down to 7th. O'Stephen 8th. Tinnis is in 9th, and Patsman in the final points being position in 10th. Those outside the top 10, at the exception of Nitrogash, have gone for medium tyres, as has Patsman, with Nitrogash back on hard compound tyres. And we will now wait for those, and it's going to be interesting to see, will the safety car pull in before the 2 at the back have had a chance to catch up to the snake? I'm actually going to have a look at the map here just to find out where these 2 are. So they're currently just coming into sector 2, and they're crossing the finishing line, this pair. This is going to be tough for them. If the safety car comes in at the end of the next lap, oh, I don't think they're going to have closed up in time. Ashgash right behind Ginger Tiger. I'm sure he'll be almost pushing him along, wanting him to go as fast as he possibly can just to get up to the pack. But at the same time, Ginger Tiger might not be pushing too hard, because he'll know that those medium tyres need to go to the end of a race. It's going to be a balancing act for these pair. They have to catch up to the safety car, otherwise their races are still not in a great place. And of course Malk will know, being in the lead here, he's got such a chance to start to build a championship lead. His closest rival Maggot is in 5th at the moment, and then obviously Nitrogash and Synchronously and Mileham, the other 3 drivers behind him, are currently not going to be scoring any points. So a win here for Malk would do wonders for his championship, And this is all after he didn't even score anything at the opening round of the season, so just shows how quickly your form can dip and increase throughout the course of a season, and how one race can not define a season. Malk has really got his head down after that difficult opening round, a 3rd place and a 1st place, and to date I'd say this has been his most impressive performance, but we still have half a race to go in very different conditions to what we started out on. Of course we started on the intermediates. Oh, and if a safety car comes in this lap, they might... I don't think they're going to catch up in time if it stays out for another lap. I think they're going to be fortunate here. I think Ginger Tiger and Nitrogash are going to be fortunate in the fact that the safety car is going to do one more lap, and that will mean they can join the back of a snake. So their races are not over. They perhaps might have considered even retiring at some certain points, but they'll be glad now that they didn't, because their race is very much still alive. And while their teammates are 1st and 2nd, they can join the back of a snake and potentially still salvage some points from this race. They will catch up now to the back of the pack, that much is sure. So and let's focus quickly on a driver that for me has definitely impressed so far here tonight, and that's Cryptox. He's once again made some sublime overtakes. It took him a while to get past C. Wilson at the start, but since then he's been quick. You know, he's been brave with his overtaking and clean at the same time. And I've got to say, he's one of the 4 men in F4 at the moment, and you certainly couldn't write him off just yet from maybe not only finishing on the podium, but potentially finishing on a higher step of the podium tonight. The 2 cars at the back have caught Snake. The safety car will most definitely be coming in at the end of this lap. There is no doubt about it. Yep, safety car coming in. Malk effectively becomes the effective safety car in that he will control the pace. You know, he'll have a chance to warm up his tyres, bunch the pack up, and then it's up to him as to when the best moment is to just go for it. He needs to give a safety car enough room. Of course, Malk, a vastly experienced racer, he will be in this position many times before. He'll know that he needs to give a safety car enough room, but he also will know that he will want to get a jump onto him, and he will not want to give the Racing Point any chance to get in the lead, because of how good Malk has looked so far tonight. I think any half opportunity that the car behind him has, he'll look to take. And Malk has gone for it. Oh, there's been a collision between Maggot and Richard, and Maggot's got a penalty there. Richard must have collided with the back of him, but he hasn't got away particularly well, Malk here. He's got Tin Man right behind him, coming into the first sweeping right-hander of the track. And in fact, Maggot, what's happened here? Maggot has got past Mike at the restart, so Mike has dropped down to 5th, Maggot up to 4th, and despite the penalty, Mike's struggling here. Mike's not had a good restart at all. He may not have warmed up those hard tyres during the safety car period, and he looks to me like he's struggling to get the temperature into them. And oh, that's a brave move from Richard, and in fact he's going to lose a place to his teammate Brennon's. Is either 2 Mercedes going side by side here. Not a corny, particularly advised side by side wheel to wheel racing, and Richard in the end maintains 6th place, but he was very close to making contact with the Haas car there. And the Renault of C. Wilson absolutely charging through the pack. He's already up past 2 people, as behind him O'Steven and Tinnis fight for 10th place, and O'Steven breaks later and gets that final points paying position at the moment. Cryptox, though, is the one we need to look out for, because he is right in the slipstream. of a racing point of Tin Man. He looks very racy at the start here. He's going to look down the inside. He wants to get this move done quickly, but he also knows at the same time he'll have DRS in a few laps, but it doesn't matter because Tin Man's made a mistake at the hairpin, ran too wide, and he's going to try and fight the Alfa Romeo back, but there's no way he can make that stick. He was not on the racing line there, and Cryptox grabs second place. Just put Tin Man under pressure there, really. Sort of showed his nose up the inside, and it frightened Tin Man into a bit of a mistake. Cryptox is absolutely flying. Is there anything he can do to stop Malk, who has already built almost a 2-second lead at his safety car restart? Malham is into the pits, so Malham had more damage, unfortunately. After winning a season opener in France, Malham just hasn't collected the results he would have hoped for, and he's taken on soft tyres, which I've got to be honest, I don't think will make the end from here. So Malham's race just not going his way, and he needs to try and rediscover that form that he had at the opening round. Tin Man struggling again, really there. Didn't get the best of exits. He's going to come under threat now from Maggot. He's already got Cryptox. Cryptox has had a fantastic lap. He's going to be in Malk's DRS range here. Cryptox is absolutely flying. Malk may have made a small mistake somewhere, but that doesn't change the fact that Cryptox right now is just looking unstoppable. He won't have DRS on this occasion, so best bet really is just to stay in the slipstream. I don't imagine Malk would make the same mistake under braking that we saw from the racing point, and indeed he doesn't. And neither does Tin Man either on this occasion, holding off the McLaren behind him. But I'd be very shocked here if we don't see Cryptox pop up with a fastest lap. Yeah, look at that, 35.0. That is some serious pace. He's going to take some stopping, really. Malk, I don't think has an answer to this kind of pace. Tin Man dropping back and defending hard against Maggot behind him. Maggot hasn't really been at a sharp end for much of his race, but he's starting to become and look a threat. He is second in the championship at the moment. He's had some strong performances. He got 4th at Austria, 2nd last time out at Zandvoort, and he scored a few points too at France. He's been quietly fancied by other F4 drivers as a tip for the title, but he's definitely showing that here, and he'll be hoping, I think, that Cryptox can make a move on Malk, which I've got to say he looks like he's going to do. How will Malk defend this? DRS will be in operation now, so he'll have that to his aid, will the German driver. Will he have enough down the straight here to make a move? That is not the camera angle I would particularly want, I have to say. There's a yellow flag in sector 3. Tinus, I think, has had an issue. He's dropped down the order. Tinus's season not going the way he would have hoped. He does definitely show some excellent pace, but things just not working out for one reason or another. And Nitrogash and Ginger Tiger find themselves now on the brink of the points. Malk still remains in front of Cryptox at the moment. For how much longer will that remain? Maggot is looking down. Oh, and he spun! They made contact into turn 1! And Maggot's race has just taken a real turn for the worst. Contact between him and the racing point through turn 1. Again, didn't look like there was an awful lot of contact. Maybe a slight squeeze from Tin Man there onto Maggot. It was difficult, obviously, not knowing how close he was at the entry of the corner to know as to whether the racing point would have seen him coming, but there was impact at the midpoint of turn 1, and that hasn't damaged Maggot's car, but has dropped him outside the points, and that could be a big blow when we look back in it in a few races' time in the championship, because there's no doubt about it, that is the moment where championships can be won and lost. And that really makes this now into a two-way fight, I think, for the race win between Malk and Cryptox. Cryptox runs very wide out of the sweeping turn 13, and that really hasn't helped his entry onto this long straight, which I think has allowed Malk to stay in front for now. as proven here by Kryptos, it's one thing closing in, but it's very different. It's very much another thing trying to make the move. Of course, the dirty air effect on this game is definitely more apparent, and there's a lot of long sweeping corners around here which won't help with that. So although Kryptos to me looks like he has a little bit more pace, it's where can he find an overtake. Malk will know where to place his car. He will make sure that he has to work for it, and we've got a great battle going on here through turns 2 and 3. As the two go side by side, it's Patsman and Brennan's, and it's Patsman who in fact makes the position up on Brennan's. Patsman up into 6th place, and it's a much better day for Haas, it has to be said. 4th and 6th, their best showing since France. And it's very strange really in a way. I think that drivers that looked good in France are looking very good here as well. Really two tracks that do have something in common, at least in terms of the results that we're seeing. And it's good to see the Haas cars back up there competing for good points. Of course, and see Wilson dives down the inside of Brennan's. Has Brennan's got damage? He might have. Difficult to see there. I'm just trying to see if he's got a front wing end plate missing. I think he might very well have. Difficult to tell from that angle, but I think he has. Got a yellow flag in sector 3. What's that all about? We're going to go with Tin Man, who is beginning to struggle, it has to be said. He's now gaining a bit of a train of cars behind him, and Mike is coming back at the racing point here. And holding on to that podium might be very different. I don't think Brennan's has got damage, so he's got away with that one. I think there was a bit of contact between him and the Renault going into turn 12, but ultimately Wilson's making his way through the pack very nicely. But how does medium tyres hold on in 7 laps time? And we've got to change for the lead. And it's looking like it's coming into turn 6. Looks like he might have got the move done at the end, just coming into sector 2 there. Kryptos has found a different overtaking spot and takes the lead. So we have a change for the lead. Malku's looked so comfortable throughout, but Kryptos just seems to have found another gear in these conditions. Maybe went for a more dry setup than the Red Bull, and it's ultimately paid dividends. Kryptos into the lead now, and I have to say I didn't see that coming 10-15 laps ago. You know, further behind it, well, Timman's actually pulled out a bit of an advantage again, but it's Mike here who's going to be under pressure here. Richard is going to challenge him for P4. What can Richard do? He's ducking out the slipstream, going to the outside into the hairpin. Mike brakes very late and gets it stopped as well. Very nicely done. Some good defending there for Mike. He will have been helped by having a DRS himself, but still had to defend that position well into the hairpin. And it can be very difficult to spot your braking points on the inside of that hairpin due to the shallow entry that you have to take. But Mike keeps hold of 4th place, and he still will have his eyes set on getting that 3rd place. And I don't think Malk's given up on his race win yet. He'll be hoping that Kryptos took a bit too much out of his tyres at the start of the stint. And he's still remaining within DRS of the Alfa Romeo out front, and we know Malk won't give up. He perhaps wouldn't have thought he would have won last week, and he managed to salvage it, so he'll just stick with Kryptos and hope either Kryptos has a penalty or that he can repass him on the racetrack. Meanwhile, further behind, the battle remains. The 3rd place, Brennan's picks up a penalty that could really impact him at the end of a race, because it's so close. From 3rd place down to 11th, there just isn't any gaps at all, so any penalties in that range of the field could see you drop maybe 5-6 places. There's no doubt about it. You cannot afford to pick up too many penalties in that range of the pack. This podium position could be decided by that. Cars are also close together on the track, and we've got for a battle further down as Brennan's is passed at the hairpin by Osteven. Osteven up into 8th place once again, just picking up those valuable points. Brennan's drops to 9th. He's going to come under threat now from Nitrogash, who's got slightly fresher hards due to having pitted when a safety car came out. Nitrogash goes round the outside into turn 1. This will be a brave move if he can make that stick. And there is contact between the pair. And Brennan's is off the track. And Owen, he came on a little bit clumsily and has gone into Maggot. And that completes a full 360 there for the Mercedes driver. Drops him firmly outside the points. Just probably a little bit of frustration creeped in there. Didn't quite pay attention to where he was coming back onto the track, and now he's off the track again. So, and Brennan's race there falling apart before his eyes, really. And he'll be very fortunate now if he can score any points from there. We're on lap 23 here. Cryptox gradually just pulling a few tenths of a second out on Malk. He's desperate to get that, hit that 1 second barrier, so he loses the impact of DRS against him. Tell Malk's not giving up on his race win just yet, but he's going to have to get a bit closer than that. He wants to make the move stick. Richard, this is Richard's best opportunity yet. Mike did not have DRS to defend, so Richard goes right round the outside into the hairpin and makes that move stick absolutely beautifully. And now the two Haas cars are fighting away. Patsman is on mediums compared to Mike on hards, and we saw what happened last time these two got together on track. Hopefully not a repeat. Gunter Steiner from the pit wall will be praying for as much, because he will not want to see those two come together again. They're very much in solid point scoring positions here. They don't need to ruin that. But Richard up to 4th, and I think Richard here has got half a chance of getting a podium. Tin Man hasn't looked secure in that 3rd spot, and Richard now might potentially have a face to challenge him. Brennan's has dropped to the back and has actually come into the pits. Oh, and we've got damage! I don't know who that's on. That might potentially be on Mike. I think it is. Yeah, Mike has lost his front wing end plate. Oh, and look here! He's not really letting his teammate through! Oh, and there's been a collision! C. Wilson and Patsman's dropped down, and Gunter Steiner will be shaking his head once again. I can't help feeling there. It was clear that Mike had damage. Should he have just let his teammate go on that one? I don't think he really didn't help out his teammate on there, and yet more problems developing at Haas, which could again cost him a mountain of points. Unfortunately, it's an all too familiar sight for that team. Meanwhile, Malk is still very much on the back of Cryptos, and I actually think he's getting closer than he has been for a while. So this race at the front is definitely not over, and Malk starting to come back at the Alfa Romeo driver in these latter stages. We've just, of course, got just under 4 laps to go. These two comfortably out in front. Malk knows he's got the safety buffer of 10 seconds if he wants to start battling with the Alfa Romeo. Oh, and we've got a battle further behind us. Wilson tries to go on the outside of Mike. Mike has got damage, but it's not stopping him defending. He may have lost his front wing end plate, but Mike is not giving this up, not one bit. Can't help feeling he should have given it his up to his teammate, but Mileham is out of the race. It's too late for a safety car, but Mileham is out. And look at that! C. Wilson goes right around the outside. There's a contact with Mike, who drops further down the field. He manages to recover from a half spin, and once again, okay, I don't think it definitely wasn't on purpose that time. I don't think it was on purpose before, mind you. But once again, he sort of ends up just blocking his teammate off again. I get the surely Mike's going to have to surrender the place. I mean, there's actually quite a decent margin once these two cars are past him. Patsman, I think, will be slightly livid here. He will know that he'd have had a great chance for points here, and that Mike effectively has ended those. Again, he's going defensive. Doesn't seem like there's much team harmony at Haas. Oh, and he pushes him wide. Oh my goodness me, that's not the sort of thing you expect to see between teammates when one of them has damage. There's clearly no will have lost at Haas, and this is just really is destroying their race. If they do want to win the constructors, they're going to have to work a lot better than this. Patsman right around the outside of Mike into turn one. There's nothing Mike can do in the end to defend that. I just don't really understand why he was defending it in the first place. With damage, it just wasn't a fight worth fighting against your own teammate. Back to the front, Critox. Built just about half a second more since we last were on board with this pair. Gap now back up to 9/10 of a second, but he still cannot find that magical second. Although maybe on this occasion he might just have pulled out a second to Malk. Has Malk's charge come to an end? And somehow again Nitrogash has found himself. I mean, if you look at this for Malk here today, how much does he want to risk getting past Cryptox? Ginger Tiger is out of the race now as well, so a retirement for him. He will not be scoring points today. It looks like the top 10 that are in the points now pretty secure in them. Just a question of what order they'll finish in. We move on to the penultimate lap of the race. Yeah, unless Malk considers Cryptox now a new championship contender, which you've got to say based on his performance, Cryptox is definitely putting himself in the hunt. But you look at the other contenders, you've got Nitrogash in 7th, Maggot 10th, synchronously not racing tonight. How much does Malk want to push for that win? How much does he want to put himself at risk to get those extra points? Speaking of one of his championship rivals, Maggot has, as you would expect, made the move stick on Mike. Up to 9th, Mike though pretty secure now in 10th spot. He's got a comfortable margin to Tinus behind him. Nitrogash is starting to put Steven under a bit of pressure here, and even more so, a battle for third is developing because Richard, as I suspected he could, has closed in on Tin Man, and Tin Man's going to have a battle here to keep hold of that third spot. The battle at the front looks like it's over now. Malk just hasn't had the pace to deal with Cryptox after the safety car restart, but the battle for third place is still very much alive. And what can Richard do here? Getting a little bit wide onto the straight. That has lost him a bit of momentum. He might not be close enough come the end of his straight to make a move. We will of course flick to Nitrogash, who will be in a position to overtake. Yeah, Richard not close enough, so what's Nitrogash up to? Nitrogash going around the outside of Osteven into the hairpin. Is he going to be able to make a stick a little bit of wheel barging? Nitrogash determined to have the outside line. They're going to go side by side for the final corner, are they? Is either one of them going to want to back off? No, they're not. And Nitrogash makes it stick. Does he? Oh, more contact on the exit. They're going side by side down the pit straight. Who has got the edge here? I think it's a Ferrari of Osteven. I think I think either of them had DRS actually. But Osteven has got the inside line to the corners, got the higher ground, and keeps hold of 6th place after some incredibly intense racing there between the pair of them. And they've got Patsman quickly approaching as well now. They've distanced themselves somewhat from C. Wilson, who despite a very chaotic race for him is looking like he's going to score some very nice points here for Renault. In 5th place, he's made those medium tyres last pretty well after the safety car restart, and ultimately that has been the determining factor for him. But we are going to go, I think we are going to go with Cryptox now. He's on the final run down the long back straight, just a few corners left to go through turn 14, the hairpin coming up. Just got to spot his braking point for one final time. It's been an absolutely superb drive from him. He looked quick in the wet, he's looked even quicker in the dry. After the safety car came out and bunched the field up, he overcame Tin Man, he overcame Malk, and Cryptox here around the final corner is going to win the F4 Chinese Grand Prix ahead of Malk. It looks like it's going to be Tin Man, barring penalties, that is going to hold on to score his 2nd podium of the season. He rounds the final corner here, the racing point across the line. Has he got the final spot on the podium? Yes, he has. Richard actually has an unserved penalty, so He maintains that position. Steven, it is who takes 5th place. Nitrogash 6th. C. Wilson is in 7th. Maggot, oh no, Mike, sorry, climbs back up to 8th. Maggot drops to 9th. Patsman will take the final point in 10th, and Tinnis and Brennons will complete your finishing order. But let's go on board with Cryptox. That was an absolutely superb performance there. Like I say, I was shocked really that he qualified so far down, really, when you look at how quick he was in all conditions. But he made some great overtakes in the wet, and once the safety car came out and bunched the field up, he just looked unstoppable. Malk held him off for a while, but eventually a move down the inside of turn 6 sealed it for him. Malk put up a great fight. He was ultimately way too quick for everybody in the wet, but in the dry it was much more of a leveller, and I don't think he'll be too disappointed with 2nd place. And well done to Tim Man for holding off Richard for the final spot on the podium. We'll hopefully get to speak to all the podium finishers very shortly. But there you go, that's the podium finishers. My driver of the day, it's a very tough one, I have to say. But I have to give it to Cryptox for the 2nd week in a row. I think to come from where he was on the grid and to be so quick, whether it was wet or dry, shows that he had a very good setup on the car, and ultimately he just drove a superb race. He got the overtake done in for the lead, and Malk in the end just didn't have enough to fight him back with. We'll find out, of course, if Malk ultimately decided not to fight him or if he just didn't have the pace to. In terms of the fastest lap from inside the top 10, I think that's also Cryptox, although of course Brennons went on to softs and smashed everyone else's effort. A lot of penalties in there which helped the likes of Steven climb up to 5th, another 5th place for him. He's having a very decent run of performances. Richard as well, I thought drove a fine race from 11th to 4th. And we got Nitrogash as well, who recovered from a lot of adventures. That safety car ultimately kept his race alive, and he made some good ground up after the safety car came in to climb up to 6th, and that's some useful championship points going forward for Red Bull. Right, let's try and get the podium finishers into the party for a quick chat following the race. Just getting the podium finishers into the party now. So it was a little bit of a slow burner, but we got a dramatic end to the Chinese Grand Prix tonight. We're getting the podium finishers into the party now. Just make sure, as always, that you have your settings set so that your voice can be shared in the chat, so you heard on the stream. And we've got everybody in, so we'll get things started with Cryptox. Congratulations on the win. Obviously, you got your first podium last week. How does it feel to have ticked off another box and got that first win?
It's a great feeling, to be honest with you. It's like, it's kind of a dream come true, because first win at Invictus just feels great. Especially to follow up with a strong race after a podium.
You looked to have excellent pace in both conditions. How did you tailor the setup of the car?
Well, I think it wasn't mainly the setup, because I was like very patient in the rain. not forcing anything, being very patient, and just going for the move if it was very clear, not forcing anything, and that turned out to be the right call then.
It looked like you closed in on Mount quite quickly after a safety car came in, but you struggled for a while to get past. You went for a slightly different overtake in the end. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, first of all, good race, Mark. That was some quite interesting moments we had there. Had some quite fun. Yeah, I saw like he went more like to the right on the corner. I don't remember which turn it was. I think it's like 4 or 5. And then I saw like a gap opening on the left because he moved to the right, and I decided to go for it. And then it turned out that I had more grip when it comes to accelerating. Fair play format for leaving the space there then. So I managed to get past and stay ahead.
With your teammates synchronously not being here tonight, did you feel any extra pressure to deliver the points for Alfa Romeo?
Yeah, because like it's unfortunate that he isn't here right now. I'm sure that we would have a great result with him. But yeah, the pressure was definitely there. I delivered, and we won't get in any disadvantage in the constructors now.
And looking ahead to next week, we're racing at Abu Dhabi. How do you see yourself going around there?
Haven't practiced it that much on this game, to be honest, but I would say solid point finish is possible.
Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations again on the win tonight. We'll move on to Malk now, who took second place. After last week, where you mentioned that the safety car kind of helped you to a win, would you almost argue it worked against you this week?
You definitely set that spot on there, mate, with that. To be fair, though, I kind of knew that was going to happen after what happened last week, to be fair, but at the end of the day, we all want to have some great racing and respectful racing as well. But can I just say congratulations to Cryptox, who put me under a lot of pressure on the dries situation, but I did give him enough room on turn 4, which you said earlier, Cryptox, but yeah, brilliant drive from him, and he deserved the win. And it's kind of like 50-50, really. Just annoyed that it didn't hold on to that from the pole and holding on. But at the end of the day, I'd like to see some good racing, and me and Cryptox had some, as he said, a few moments there, didn't we, Cryptox?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's a bit good, Jake.
And in terms of, obviously spoke about setup with Cryptox briefly, was a wet setup something you prioritised? Because it did look like you had a lot more pace in wet conditions.
Not really. I had to try and mix it up a little bit with the dries, so try and keep the pace with the dries when it did come out, but try and get a good head start with the wets. I was very surprised with the pole time, to be fair, because I did not have any practice at all in the wet, only in the dries. So that's the honest truth with that, Jake. With that.
And looking at how some of the other people around you in the championship scored tonight, it's actually worked out pretty well for yourself. But do you see Cryptox emerging as a championship contender as well now?
Yeah, I mean, Cryptox, Maggot, Milam, Nitro, Sync as well. It's like, and then like when Tim Mann's joining in the podium as well. Fair play to him for finishing third. He had a great battle at the start in the wets as well. So to be fair, it's just going to be, like I said, Cryptox is one of the threats. Same as what I said with all the others on the questionnaire. Well, the questions I did earlier in the forum stuff, but. Like I said, Cryptox, Milam, Maggot, Nitro, Sync, when they're on their top form, they'll be the ones to beat, and Cryptox is capitalising it, and fair play to him.
And looking ahead as well to Abu Dhabi for you as well, how do you see that one going?
Same with Cryptox. I've not done much practice around there, other than only just like a few laps. I haven't done it properly around the practice there, but I only done a few laps on TT. It's one of those tracks where you have to keep concentration as well, and try and get the overtakes within the 2 DRS straights as well. So it's just try and keep it cool at every race. Like I said, I'm not taking it going straight ahead. I'm taking it one step at a time. Okay,
congratulations on the second place.
Cheers for that, mate. Thank you.
No worries. We'll move on to Tim Man now. Your second podium of the season tonight. another one perhaps who probably didn't want the safety car when it came out. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, the safety car was not the most helpful thing at all backing into the pack, but what can we do?
Alex, say your second podium of the season. Is that a good start to the season from your perspective?
Definitely. I mean, when I came into this league, I was not expecting podiums at all. So to have 2 in the first few races is a great result.
Ultimately, what conditions would you say you preferred out there tonight? Would you prefer it to stay wet, or were you happy that it dried up?
I probably would have preferred it to be wet for the entire race. Had good pace in the wet, not as good in the dry.
And looking ahead to the rest of the season, then what are your aims now? Are you looking to get that first win?
The first win would be great, but as you said, some of the other drivers here are much better, I think, than me, and any points finished for me is what I aim for, to be honest.
No worries. And we've got Abu Dhabi next week, as I've said. How do you see that one going for you?
Not my most favourite track, and haven't practiced it that much, so over the next week shall be practicing that a fair bit.
No worries at all. And also looking at the constructors as well, so your teammates with Ginger Tiger, he hasn't had such a good start. I don't know, have you spoken to him much? Are you trying to give him any tips?
I haven't spoken to him yet, no. I have plans to, but I just haven't got around to it.
No worries at all. So well done again on the 3rd place. Congratulations on your 2nd podium, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again at some point in the next few weeks as well. So congratulations to all the podium finishers tonight, and everyone who in fact finished in the points. That's about it from me, Jake. We will see you again next week, same time, for round 5 at Abu Dhabi. Until then, catch you on the flip side.